And we're live. Hey, everybody, it's Angela Humphries with North Carolina School Choice. Go to the ncschoolchoice.com website and please subscribe and find all sorts of helpful links about education in the state of North Carolina. Today, I have two special guests, Pam James and Michele Morrow. Pam is using the school system, so that's why I brought her into the conversation. Michele had some stuff to say about the governor's Plan B. So welcome, ladies.
Surprise.
Do you all want to say anything unique about yourself before we dig into this controversial conversation, controversial topic, Plan B, education policy in North Carolina, what direction we're going to go in? You guys want to talk about yourselves for a second? You two just met each other virtually. Other than that, you don't know each other. Michele, I know Michelle's involved in politics. I'll introduce you guys for yourselves if you want.
And I'll start. We're in a little bit of a unique situation as we have two adult daughters and three granddaughters. And my oldest daughter, Melanie, happens to be a Wake County school teacher at Wake Forest High School teaching ESL. They need to be in the classroom. Those students need to be in the classroom. And 3 years ago, we started raising two children whose parents were killed in Wake Forest. So we're back to having children full time. So I didn't think I was going to have to deal with all this stuff and the tracks and all this. So now we have Laura graduated through this mess. And then we have Nicholas getting ready to start at Heritage High School in the next month. So that's where we're coming from. It's a little bit of a different situation for us because we were empty nesters and now we're back raising children. So
now, is Heritage High School a charter school or is that a public school?
No, it's a very sought after high school here in Wake Forest, and it's capped.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So that's another dilemma I'm in. I've been told, I think we got an email from the school district that if we choose to homeschool, if we choose to charter, if we choose to go to private, and then we decide to come back, that there may not be a spot for us.
So I don't think you're supposed to lose your spot if you leave because that's your base school. It's right. What it's sounding like.
Yeah.
Someone's being naughty, I think.
Yeah. I think it was a threat. I really think it was a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to leave.
Yeah.
Not to have a choice.
Yeah. All right, Michele, tell us a little bit about yourself too.
Okay, so I am a homeschool mom of 5. But my kids, I have 2 that have graduated, and then I have 2 that are now in high school, and one that's going to be in 3rd grade. We've not always lived in North Carolina. We also lived in Texas, but I did finish high school here in North Carolina. I did go to UNC Chapel Hill, and that's where I graduated with my nursing degree. And so we have tried public school, we've tried private school, we've done homeschool. And I think what makes me really passionate about what is happening right now in our school system is I see very clearly the reason why we started homeschooling was because my daughter had learning difficulties, and she is my firstborn. And so we were trying everything and jumping through all the hoops and going through all the, therapists and the public school and the private school. And finally, I just said, you know what, I'm going to take her home until, I can figure out her learning style and kind of help get her caught up. And then that just progressed. And that's been 12 years ago. And I'm still, every year it's just, I didn't do this to say I just want to homeschool. But now as I'm looking at what the schools had to offer, and I'm specifically looking at the fact that there is such an indoctrination in this, I don't see that the goal of public education is to create critical thinking, independent, mature, responsible human beings. I don't see that that is the goal. I don't see that the goal is to prepare them to be healthy adults that are functioning in society. I see it that they are perpetuating this dependency, whether it's you have to go to college and then you got to get your master's. And then if you want to do something, you have to get your PhD. It's like this perpetual being a part of the system. And I'm very concerned because absolutely every parent should choose what they need to do with their kids. But my frustration is there are millions of parents who won't or can't figure out how to get their kids out of this public school system into the charter schools or the magnet schools or the private schools or to use the vouchers. Now, we absolutely need to push for those things. But what about the millions of kids that are going to continue to go through our public educational system? And this is a sobering fact. 10 years from today, every child in second grade on up will be a voting member of society.
She's going to do that 10-year thing.
10 years. I'm
Say
telling
it again. Say it again, Michele.
you, in 10 years, every single one of those kids is going to be over 18 and able to vote. And that has become the goal of the left, is to create political pundits that are going to push this agenda that is anti-American and anti-God and anti-self-control, anti-take responsibility for yourself. It is pro-victimization. It is pro-socialism. It is pro-social justice warrior. It is anti-law. I mean, we're seeing it. And I can't figure out, because I was kind of excited when the schools were closed, because I feel like, I feel like it's an opportunity for us to kind of step back and go, okay, we can start this back up, but we can totally change this trajectory, because we have gone down a really bad path of just sexual perversion. And it's like, we got to rescue our kids from that. And so I was kind of like, this is really great. This is a great time. And I will even say, we're now saying so many teachers don't feel comfortable coming back. This is my statement. There are thousands of teachers that don't come back to teaching every year.
Yeah.
It happens every year for all different reasons. We cannot make decisions based on the people that don't want to come back to school. And I would say this. When you look at the death rate, when you look at the mortality rate, it is now 0.15%.
In North Carolina, right?
This is throughout the country.
Okay.
So this is even putting in.
I need to know which science I'm dealing with.
Well, why? Because it doesn't really matter. Nobody else talks about science, right? You can just talk about science. But here's the deal. Do you know, most people don't know, that in the insert for the latest flu vaccine from 2019, in the insert, when they studied that before they released it to the public, it had a 0.25% death rate. That means the people that they tested getting this vaccine before they released it, right? That final stage of testing, which, by the way, they don't even want to do with the new vaccine, but that final stage of testing, 0.25% of the people that took that vaccine died.
Wow.
And we are all putting up your arms. Give me that.
That's from the vaccine. You're saying just from the
vaccine. That is from the vaccine. So here we are, completely changing everything about our society.
Because of COVID.
Completely destroying people's livelihoods, putting children at higher risk for hunger and for child abuse and for sexual abuse. And we're doing it for something that has been proven. And I said this today, Ireland, Iceland, and the Netherlands all have done studies that have followed the path of tracing, and they've done it with antibodies, and they've done this intense tracing study to see who caused who to get this disease. There was not one case of anyone under 20 passing COVID to anyone.
Okay, I'm not following it because I don't care.
What do you mean?
And I do care about human beings and their health and their well-being. It's just hard for me to pay attention to all the COVID nonsense at this point anymore in my life.
But my point is this. They're making all these decisions based on, we want to protect. And even one of the reporters asked today, what are you going to do about the high school students who have a higher rate of transmitting? That's an outright lie. There is no factual evidence saying that anyone in their teens has spread this or has been more detrimentally impacted by COVID at all. 0%.
So I have been in civil debates with people who I disagree with about masks versus not masks. And they're like, don't you care about people, Angela? And I was like, yes, I do. I care so much about your liberty. I'm willing to not wear a mask, but I still care about your health. And it's like, I don't know if people's minds blown that you can do two things at the same time or more than one thing. And they're like, no, your health comes first, then your liberty. I'm like, no. So it's really a debate about something else than the mask itself. But
I think when you talk about schools and when you talk about opening up, there was just a statement, and he didn't even address this, of course, because they asked him about sports, right? And they asked him about extracurricular activities, and he's always passing the buck and saying, we're going to let the athletic directors decide that. Why aren't these people at the table? Why aren't these people in front of the camera answering the questions?
Right. It was just the media. It was just some random media questions. So So if you guys are going to catch this, I see there's a viewer, and I think I limited the audience to my private North Carolina school choice group. So I may have made a mistake by doing that, but it's okay. I can share it later on the YouTube channel that I have, which I have links to on the site. But if you're just tuning in now, we're trying to eventually make our way to talking about Plan B, which is to address the Governor Cooper's decision on
That's
on
President
Tuesday
Cooper.
Yeah.
choosing Plan B. Hey, Rebecca, I see Rebecca's tuning in. I should have invited Rebecca to the conversation too, because she's probably got a lot to say. Maybe I'll send you the link if I can multitask during the broadcast. But Plan B is moderate social distancing. All requirements in the guidance packet apply, with additional requirements in the social distancing and minimizing exposure and transportation sections. Now, he also said that schools could go to Plan C if they wanted to. So Plan C is remote learning only, and the subtext will be implemented only if state COVID-19 metrics worsen significantly, which I know Michele probably has some comments about the metrics in regards to why do the numbers keep going up? You had a comment about that earlier, I think. So worsen significantly enough to require suspension of an in-person instruction and the implementation of remote learning for all students based on the remote learning plans required by Session Law 2020, like the year, -3. So there's a bunch of links in this document, which I shared to my profile. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Angela Humphries. You can look at my public post. And this document is called Strong Schools NC Public Health Toolkit K-12. And it has interim guidance in smaller print. And it's just a huge packet about Plan A, B, C. So Pam, I think you were upset because when you heard it, you're like, okay, which plan are we on? And
yeah, because I missed that first part. Yeah, because I've been sitting here waiting, and
but that's all you missed. He said, I'm going
yes.
to Plan B, and
Yeah.
Plan B.
Well, what I saw was in school instruction across the bottom of the ticker tape. I thought he's going to let that. So I thought it was full time because it didn't say across the bottom.
Oh no.
It didn't say so. So here, I want to throw this out there because Michele was given some numbers. My husband is a number guy. He's an engineer. His whole background is science. His whole life has been science. He's not a doctor or a nurse. He is a chemical engineer by degree. He was also on a nuclear powered submarine. So he started looking at numbers last night, and you know us, and we're Christians, and we care about every human life, every life. And he said from the CDC site, because he's a numbers guy, he looked it up, and this is all 35 children have died in the United States, 14 and under, from COVID.
Okay.
Okay, that's sad. Almost 5,000 kids died during the same time frame, pneumonia and the flu. Yet, what did we do during those flu months? Did we wear masks? You know, so what I was tagging that onto what you were saying, Michele, because the numbers just don't add up.
No.
Numbers don't add up. And we want to, and his whole thing has been keep testing for what? What are you going to do with all the tests? You know, so it's getting a little bit frustrating, but I am frustrated about B because we're in a dilemma. We go ahead and send Nicholas for 1 week and send him home for 2 weeks. We just go ahead and do the verbal learning full time. The child is going to high school. Wasn't the most sociable kid when we got him 3 years ago. So I feel like he needs to make that connection right away with his teachers instead of waiting until January or God knows when they're going to go back, because we don't have a guarantee. We don't have a guarantee that they're going to go back next semester.
I think that's scary that
it is.
like using your own words, you don't have a guarantee.
We don't have a guarantee. There is no guarantee.
But you're still willing to leave it up to the government. Which is okay because a lot of people are, but it's just scary that they have all this power over so many lives. It's just, that's the terrifying part to me. Not so much a virus, just this impact that they're having on families. So I talked to you.
Of course, they're going to have to be masked. You know, they have to wear masks. They'll have to wear masks if they go back into the classroom. And the governor, Michele, said they were going to provide 5 masks each week for the children that can be washed.
Yeah. What a huge waste of money.
Not only a waste of money, let's think about this. Guys, remember, Cooper was called out by Burks up in Washington, Cooper himself, because he was not following the guidelines for 2.5 months in our nursing homes. They weren't providing the PPE that they needed in our nursing homes, which was putting all of them at risk, supposedly. And so you just go, this doesn't. And then out of one side of his mouth, he's talking about how he really wants teachers to get a raise. No, you don't. You just vetoed twice bill that the General Assembly passed in order to give all teachers a raise. If you really wanted to give teachers a raise, Governor Cooper, you could have done it. You had the ability to do it. The problem is you didn't want for the Republican General Assembly to get the credit for it. And that's exactly what this was about. It was a political move. And as far as I'm concerned, it's going to take the teachers. It's going to take the parents. This is where I think it's positive.
Close up.
It's positive because there is no one that's happy. Yeah. The superintendents aren't happy. The Board of Education isn't happy. The teachers, the ancillary staff, the parents, the student, no one is happy. So we are ripe for change. We are ripe for change. And so I say that's why we need to start pushing the conservative ideas and solutions for how we would treat this differently. I think that we need to get people that are running, like Dan Forrest and Mark Robinson, who's going to be head of all the schools, and Catherine Truitt, and the people that are running for these positions to say, this is what I would do. If I were in this position, if you give me this right to be in this position, this is how I would be handling this right now. And let's make an informed decision about what's going to be different. I've told people this. This is not going to change until January 21st of 2021. And that's only if we can get
Right. And that's Inauguration Day for people who don't know about U.S. history.
The day after Inauguration Day, right. And what I'm saying is
that's for 85% of the population of high school kids, right? Because I think only 15% are proficient in U.S. history. So
right. But and so my thing is I want for the schools to be back open. I want, like you were saying, parents need to know what their options are. Yeah. And they keep us so focused on just trying to provide for our families and pay our bills and keep our kids out of trouble and train them to be honest citizens, that there's no time to spend hours looking at all the possible. So I thank you, Angela, for what you're doing in trying to just give people a place that they can go and just read things in a synopsis and go, oh, I didn't even know there's a magnet school down the road for me. Oh, what do I do? What are the steps? A, B, C, and D? Because I guarantee people right now are
I'm always looking for helpers.
There you go. Always, if you tell people, if people are feeling lost and you say, here is a path you can walk down, 90% of people will say, thank you, and they will start walking down that path. But finding that answer is overwhelming to people. When there's
it is very. I met with a mom this morning, and she said, I am afraid that they're going to teach my child how to be, what's it called? And I said, I don't know. What is it called? What are you talking about? She's like, is it masochism? I said, I chuckled because and she said,
it is masochism now.
Yeah. I said, do you mean Marxism? And she said, yeah, that's it. Communism. We don't want that. I don't want my children taught that. Well, I was like, well, you want to teach them what it is, but yeah, we don't want your children to ultimately grow up and be Marxists, of course. So we had a long conversation about what her options are. And then at the end, I was like, do you feel like I even helped you? Was I able to convey like what the options were for you? Like, I mean, we even went into the K through 12 scholarship programs that me and Pam were just talking about before we went live. And that it's hard to digest all of this information. And then on top of that, you know what? I have a potato chip clip downstairs in my pantry that has real NCID on it. So we market stuff like identification, which we aren't even allowed to use at election time, right?
Just for testing.
Huh?
You need your ID to get tested.
That's right. So just all these stupid inconsistencies where voters passed identification at the polls. But
Right.
anyway, it's getting me off. It's getting me off tangent.
Well, have you all talked about this? This is another concern of mine. My daughter teaches, like I said, she has a 5.5-month-old and an almost 5-year-old who can't go to kindergarten yet. So we're scared about these teachers being in the classroom full time. Okay, I'm not. I don't think she really is either, because she only has like 14 kids at the most in a classroom. So she can social distance and not even wear a mask is what she hopes to happen. But what about my 2 grandkids? Where are they going to go?
They can home.
But I'm saying, what are all these teachers going to do with their children? Because she said for her, it would definitely be better to go to sea, because then she would be home full time. She could have somebody come in, but is she going to have to take them to a daycare? You know what I'm saying? So then you're putting 2 children at risk. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to save the kids in the public school from being sick and dying and carrying it and giving it to the teachers. But the teachers have got to find somewhere to put their own children.
Well, I have this question. Has anyone put their kids in daycare for 3 weeks?
They're all open.
Constantly.
New Light Christian Camp is open overnight. The Walnut Day Camp is open.
I know. Right. I'm telling you, this doesn't make any sense from a medical standpoint. Kids, we are always and have always been, I have said, the people with probably the strongest immune systems in the nation are teachers and emergency room workers, because you are constantly around people with different pathogens. I mean, these teachers that have taught for 20 years, they probably have immune systems of steel. They don't need to be worried about getting COVID, because they probably have had so many coronaviruses. And that's the other thing that people aren't talking about.
So what are you guys going to do? Pam, how are you going to decide how are you going to sift through any alternatives when no one is giving you that information? Well, so we market real ID. Everyone's got to go get a federal ID and be tracked, but we don't market educational options for North Carolinians. It's not fair. So we need to be louder about what the options are once we can actually digest what they are. So hopefully I helped that mom. She had no idea that K through 12 grants existed and that she could she had a IEP. So she was already eligible to apply for one of those programs. And I've talked about this in broadcasts in the past where the demand is higher than the amount of people that can actually access those programs. So it's unfortunate. My options are homeschooling, not private, because I'm not sure I want to cough up all that additional money. And no one's talking about the fact that all the homeschoolers are funding locally. They're paying their local tax dollars, and that those tax dollars are still benefiting the local school district. Meanwhile, the district provides me with no service for all that money that I have sent them. So they benefit because I had school choice, or I executed school choice in my household. Same with Michele. So they should be, instead of demanding more constantly, they say, okay, homeschool, because then we no longer have to serve that child and we still get your money. You know what I mean?
Right. But therein discloses their real goals, because you and I both know that they said how many extra kids were going to come into Wake County in 2018, 2019. They said it was like 1,200 students, and we ended up getting 30, but they got all of this extra funding for the thousands of students that never showed up. And what did they do with that money? Like, we don't have any idea what they've done with that money, because there is no accountability. And that is the thing that is the most frightening when you say, How are
what people say about private schools, though? That's why the left attacks private schools, because they say there's no accountability there.
Well, let me tell you something. There's accountability, because people, if they don't see that their kids are learning anything and they're failing all the tests at the end of the year, they're not going to write another check. That is the accountability in a private school. It doesn't need to be the federal government keeping them accountable. If you were doing a crappy job teaching students, you're not going to have a school. It's that.
That's right.
But that's not true of the public school. You can do an absolutely atrocious job and just keep shoving people through the system and getting more and more money for IEPs and for everybody that's on ADD medicine and everybody. I mean, they get extra cash for people that are tested with learning disabilities. I don't know if you guys know that, but the more people that they have in their school that have learning disabilities or IEPs, they get more money from the state and federal government according to that number. They desire for people to be diagnosed with disabilities. That's wrong. That it shouldn't be our goal to have increased people on medications under the age of 20. That is not promoting health. It's not promoting wellness. It's not promoting anything that is positive in society. Besides,
I don't know if it's their goal, but I can easily see that could be an underlying goal to get that extra funding. And especially
we have one that's just coming off of an IEP, the one that just graduated, and she's had an IEP. As far as I know, she was tested back when she was 10 years old. Her mother was a nurse, and they thought she was autistic, but she came out with ADHD, IQ, things like that. But we had her moved from Rollsville High School to Heritage. It was a world of difference. The teachers, I mean, we weren't spending 2 and 3 hours a night on homework with her, but she has not been on medication since she was younger. So they didn't push us about medication, but and we also didn't know while I was fighting the board for 8 months to get these 2 children whose parents were murdered in their own home, to get them switched to the school of our address. We were power of attorney. We weren't official guardians, but they were living with us. So it took me 8 months to fight the board. I called anybody and everybody that would listen to me.
Just the local school board?
I called the governor. I called the senators. I called everybody. And finally, what's his name that used to be on the school board that was a representative? Chris
Malone?
Chris Malone helped me and told me what to do. He said, appeal it. We have to go through a specific procedure. And then we went up there for a hearing, and I got a phone call a few weeks later that they had been approved to move. And then I found out because Lauren had an IEP, apparently we had a choice as to where to send her anyway.
Nice.
That's what somebody told me, but I don't know if that's true, but I was told that. And I was like, nobody ever bothered to tell me that while I've been fighting the school board. So,
it's hard. It's hard to sift through.
But they are a wanted commodity because that school ends up getting extra funding. So that
and they would not test her again. We asked for testing again for her because the college that accepted her would like to have updated testing. They said we can't do any more testing on her unless you have something new to present and bring to the table. I'm like, but you all were wanting to test her 2 years ago, and you thought that it wouldn't be the best idea for her emotionally because we had not had the trial yet, and that you didn't think you think it would make her have more anxiety. So we didn't test her at that time. Well, I didn't know because I am a parent that did not have any kids that had an IEP or any reason for that kind of stuff in school. So I was just ignorant to the process.
So if you have an IEP now, that will transfer over to your homeschool and you can continue that IEP. I don't know how often you have to check.
It transfers. But Nicholas doesn't have one.
Well, so
the one that graduated had one.
If you have an IEP, that makes you eligible to apply for the K through 12 grants that we offer in the state. So I believe Rebecca can maybe comment on this and then maybe help me out. I believe that makes you eligible for all three K through 12 grants in our state. We have the Opportunity Scholarship Program. We have the Disabilities Grant. And what is the other one? Couldn't remember earlier today either. But anyway, we have 3 of them. And if you have a documented disability, that makes you eligible. However, if you were already getting those grants, it keeps you in the line, it keeps you in the queue, and it prevents others from getting in. It gives you a priority in a tier system based on, education savings account, which is for thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Tabitha. Yay, we got some people who know about our school choice programs. I can't keep everything in my head.
Can you speak to what are the 3 different levels and what do they offer? Like if you get the educational savings plan, or if you get the opportunity scholarship, or if you get the disabilities one, is it that you can choose to go to a private school, or is that for charter school, or is that for tutoring? Do you know what those monies go to, or what the
So each one is different. If you go to the website ncseaa.edu, and you click on K through 12 grants, The three are outlined there.
Okay.
There's the Opportunity Scholarship, the Education Savings Account, and the Disabilities Grant. The only one I could apply for is the Opportunity Scholarship Program, but my husband's income prevents us from getting that.
Right.
So I can't harness those tax dollars at all. The Education Savings Account is geared towards a disability. The Disabilities Grant is geared towards a disability. The OSP, the first one I mentioned, is geared toward economically disadvantaged families.
Okay.
So those are kind of the three themes.
Hey,
However,
I just got a really neat message from a teacher that's a veteran teacher in Wake County, 25, 30 years. I can't remember which one, but she's been there for a long time. I'm not going to mention her name. She said, this is the worst possible scenario for everybody. Those people who are still worried about the virus want 100% remote, and those like her, she's including herself, who are not worried, on 100% in the classroom. This is a veteran teacher, high school teacher. By trying to make everybody happy, all he did was make everybody unhappy. I don't know any teacher who wants option B. So they weren't listening to the teachers like they said they were. They all either wanted A or C. Option B is going to be a train wreck. Train wreck. This is from a veteran teacher, high school teacher. And she had mentioned something to me the other day, and I can't remember the exact wording, but whatever, she has to teach two, it's not core classes, but two something. And now that they're going to do it's going to have to be 2 per week. So now she's going to have to do 6 of this class. However, I can't remember the wording, but in other words, it's going to make life miserable for her because she'll have a different group every week. So she'll have to do 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, which puts a lot more extra on the teachers. So what have we done? What has he done?
I don't know. I just answered a question like him. Michele asked me a question. I didn't even give her all the answer. Oh, so is this one for this and these supplies? So I spot.
Do you have somebody you can pull out from behind that curtain and go, well, your answer this question.
No, but look, one thing that is very helpful if my brain gets foggy, I have linked all of this information on the ncschoolchoice.com website because it is a lot of information, even for me. Even talking about it constantly, it's still a lot of information. So, it takes a village to disseminate it all and get it all out there. It took a lot of time to link everything just because I'm not tech savvy, but each one is unique in its own ways. There are states like Florida that has more options when it comes to those vouchers and grants and things like that. Like if you had a history of being bullied, they have one that focuses on kids like that. But I'm really wondering how we can convert people over to a private option, maybe. But I don't know if that, to make it affordable, would it have to be a hybrid option where you're getting something up here? Because we already have the idea in our mind. If we're paying something, paying for something, we're getting a better product. But Pam and I were talking about, would Pam consider homeschooling? Did she think she was able? And I said, Pam, you're capable. You can do it.
Because not with my ADHD. It scares me to death.
Pam
Rob could do it. Rob could do it.
Yeah. So you are capable. Anybody here watching right now is capable, and you can use it as a temporary solution if you wanted to, Pam. Your daughter that you mentioned, I think with younger kids that weren't even 5 years old yet, you can always teach. I read to Izzy. You've seen Izzy a few times. I read to her nightly up until the age of 5. So, if we could figure out things that worked from home.
Camille's going to go to preschool. The preschools are going to be open. Our church preschool is going to be open right here on the corner.
See, what I don't like, it's all great to have this money, but we right now don't have schools we can use it in.
Exactly.
At this point, it doesn't matter because the private schools aren't even sure that they're opening. And if they do, many of them, like Heritage, is a public, but a lot of private schools are capped because these parents have said, absolutely, if you're open, I'm going to be there. And
that's what I'm worried about. I might waited too late.
Private schools are closing down. I haven't heard them.
Right, but what I'm saying
Tabitha can tell us. Tabitha is
NRCAs. I think they've already sent out an email because I've been getting information from my friend. I think North Raleigh Christian is supposed to open.
Well, I would say this. All that to say, we talk about wanting school choice, but right now there is no choice. We don't even know what the choices are.
But if more money, if Pam is paying tax dollars and Pam's high schooler is only getting, what'd you say, Pam, 1 week in, 2 weeks out?
Yes. A third.
You need 2/3 of your money coming back.
But it's never going to happen. I mean, that's never going to happen. That's
not
like,
gonna happen.
It will only happen if parents start using their voices.
It'll only happen if we get these people out of power and we start completely changing the system from the ground up. And I have said, we have an amazing opportunity here in Wake County. Wake County is the 15th largest school district in the nation.
Yeah,
and
it is.
if we can change how school is done completely, if we can change how it's done, we can be at the tip of the spear and show other school systems how this can work, because this is the reality. And I got into it with somebody on, I don't know if it was School Choice or if it was somewhere else, Teachers United.
That's the union. That's a union group.
I know they don't like me there very much. So they're all complaining about how people don't have computers at home. And I said, guys, this is why kids need books.
That's right.
We need to go back to books.
What's a book?
Because,
Book.
and people were like, that's so boring. And I'm thinking to myself, if everyone had a book, you could have brought those kids home and the parents could have known exactly what they needed to do. And you know what? When you had older kids, they could have helped the younger kids if the parents had to be at work. You could have gone back and seen things that your kids didn't learn and needed to review. And we would have actually known what the direction we were on. As it is, the teachers were getting the marching orders on Saturday and Sunday before the week to come. They aren't even writing their own curriculum. No. They are literally being puppets of the left's indoctrination system. They were told not even to give kids extra work because we didn't want them to get ahead. Heaven forbid you take the kids that are bored and you actually teach them something above and beyond what other people are learning and actually give them a love for learning and get them to be doing super in class. Like, you wouldn't want that. Like, don't do that, because that's going to make everybody else who wants to do nothing and just slide by, it's going to make them feel bad about themselves. Well, maybe they should feel bad about themselves. If you don't want to work hard and apply yourself and be the best that you can possibly be, isn't that part of the blessing of being in a classroom? I mean, I was just talking to another homeschool friend today. Part of the blessing is healthy competition. That kids, when you're in a classroom with other students, you want to do well. If you're good at math, you want to show that off. If you're good at reading, if you're good at writing, if you're good at art, whatever you're good at, you want that to be highlighted. And when we take everybody home and we tell them, you need to be robotic and you need to learn exactly at the same pace as everybody else. You take your uniqueness away. You take their God-given gifts away. And that is what we've got to start fighting against. The church has been silent. And as far as I'm concerned, I would call all the retired teachers, homeschool parents who have homeschooled and now they have empty nesters, kids who have graduated homeschool and would be able to help tutor kids. Why can't we offer their services and say, hey, my daughter's happy to come to your house for 3 hours a day to help your kids with their math or their reading, right? I mean, why aren't we as the church saying, hey, open up our church and you can use this room for first graders and this room for second graders and this room, just like they used to have the one-room schoolhouses. We have the capability of people in the community who are trained. And I guarantee you, anyone who can hold down a job, anybody who can balance a checkbook, anybody who can go and make a meal for themselves can teach elementary school kids anything. But you need a book.
What are we going to do about these children, though, that are going to be home? Like, my neighbor up the street has 4 children.
Yeah.
Because of health reasons, she doesn't work.
Right.
I was taking her because she has anxiety. She had brain aneurysms. I was driving her around to her kids' school. Like in April or May, whenever they got the devices for them, I had to go to Wake Forest Middle School. I had to go to Wake Forest Elementary School. And because there's 2 kids at Wake Forest Elementary, they would only give them 1 device. So she had 4 children at home that needed devices to be doing that learning. And now we've got most parents, I think, are probably back to work. And then who's going to be teaching kids and maintaining and making sure they're online? Fortunately for us, our child's older, and we made him get up every morning at 7:30 and get on it and get it over with to keep him in a routine. So what are these parents going to do that are working, or how do you work with all these children?
Well, see that,
how are they going to do it?
And that's why I'm saying, I think that if we can get people from the community, like if you have a friend that used to homeschool, or if she has an adult child who's, working at a gym or doing whatever and is not in a career, let's get them to go and say, I can sit with the kids and I can answer their elementary school questions. But here's we've got to change our mindset.
So you're basically talking about pooling resources, which is not a new concept. I mean, that can also translate as co-ops, people collaborating, working together. Angela's going to teach about civics. Michelle is going to teach us what would you focus on? I don't know. Politics also.
No, I mean, I can do whatever, but my thing is, I mean, I'm joining
Civics 1, Civics 2,
Civics 2, Civics 3, US
Civics 3,
Constitution. Yeah. How about reading, writing, and math? See, this is my thing, which I think people get so intimidated when they think about their kids being at home because they think that they have to recreate the school environment, and it's absolutely false. For kids that are in elementary school, I have told people this: reading, writing, and math, and being out in nature, finding things that they really enjoy. Read books on that, draw pictures on that, have projects on that. We are making this so much more complicated than it needs to be. And I've been saying for years, who are we trying to produce by the time they're 18? It's like we're trying to make these superhumans. That's why they need to read by the time they're 3, and they need to do this. You don't. We have an amazing society, and we went through typical school, and it doesn't need to be an 8-hour day. I tell people I can do my 7-year-old's homeschool in 2 hours or less every day, because it's one-on-one conversation. And the thing is, our children should not be on screens. This whole idea that you should be learning on a device is not healthy. It's not
being away from. That's what I'm trying to get away from.
That's exactly right.
And 2 hours per day.
That's right. And there is something in the brain that develops when you look at a book, when you have to look at it at a board and then back at a piece of paper. There are connections from both sides of the brain that we are totally overriding. They're not producing them. And that's why I'm saying, I mean, even if they wanted it to be for elementary school, a half-day program for half the school, and they half go from 9 to noon and the other half go from 1 to 4.
Right.
We could teach them everything they needed to know in elementary school in that 3 hours if we were focused on reading, writing, math. And I think we need to continue specials. I think that kids have got to have that outlet of art and drama and music and PE. They need it. Their little bodies need to be moving, and they need to learn.
So Michelle, how can you convince Pam that she can do it? She can homeschool. Or any viewers later after we upload YouTube.
I would say, Pam, you've already been homeschooling. If you had to get your son up and make sure that he was doing his work in high school level, that's homeschooling. I mean, my kids have their set schedule of what they need to do, and they know that I'm here, to answer questions, but then, or I'm there to grade things. But the majority of what they're learning, because they've learned how to read and write and do math. And if you know those 3 basic things, you can learn anything. But what we really desperately need is we need people of character. And I have told my sons and my daughter this from the time they were little. It matters more that you are loyal, that you are teachable, that you are honest, that you have integrity, and that you work hard than it does how you pass a test. Because you are going to be the one that people want to hire because you are a person of character. And I guarantee you, I went to nursing school. I did great in nursing school. I didn't know the first thing about neurosurgical ICU, and that was my first job. And I learned on-the-job training. So I knew the basics of the human body, but I didn't learn my specialty until I was working in it. And it was an internship. I was paired with another nurse that had done it forever. And that's true of almost every job in the world. In school, you just learn how to learn. And then you go into your workplace and you learn specifically what you need to do for that job set, right?
Yeah. I'm learning on the job, Pam. A lot of homeschool moms or dads, whoever has picked up that, baton and run with it. A lot of them are, we have maybe forgotten the information, or it's information we've never got because we are products of the government run school system.
Right.
So I remember, World Civ, but, I learned a ton about the French Revolution the other day just by watching a 2-hour documentary and actually paying attention to it on my own time, giving up 2 hours of my life. And then, I'm like, I don't really want to tell my 7th grader about the guillotine, she's not ready for that yet. Yeah. But, I mean, you're basically just trying to establish this lifelong learner and figure out how you can do that, because there's this very interesting world around us, right? There's, we can't just be lazy and coast by. Look what happens when we did nothing about the schools and sex coming into the schools and religion being pushed out. While it's okay that religion is being pushed out, those people who prefer those religious schools still need to have that option while we have an anti-religious option. So if you think the government-run school is an anti-religious option, you need to have the converse for the other people.
But it's not. I mean, they're pushing Islam. I mean, that's the thing. If you're not going to talk about religion, you shouldn't talk about any religion.
Right.
I mean, because we can't, it's not. It's not
anti-religion is a religion in itself too. That you hold no beliefs, that is still a belief system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's part of your core. If that's how the government-run school system can kind of be coined, you need to have those other you need the opposite side. So we're not doing a good job convincing Pam. She's like, I'm waiting.
Yeah. No, I just opted out of my Zumba class because I've only got 10 minutes. I'm not ready. So I just got out of my Zumba class. I just took myself out of it.
Oh yeah, you were 5:45. You had to run,
and it's outside because the gyms aren't open yet.
Oh yeah, you're supposed to cut us short. We can let you go, Pam.
That's right. I can't get there anyway. I had to go to Wakefield.
You're having too much fun.
I'm enjoying listening to you all.
You just hang up when you gotta go. Say bye, ladies. Thanks for having me. But
I'm enjoying listening to you, and I realize, Michele, while we have a lot of the same friends, it's definitely politics.
Yeah, that's why we have a lot of the same friends.
Well, the Cutlets, and
it doesn't even, school choice doesn't have to necessarily be conservatives. It just has to be people who have an open mind.
That's right.
But I think we need to recognize that conservative values work for everybody, because conservative values say less government, and we want parents to have the choice. We don't agree that it takes a village to raise our children. It takes parents. Yeah. It takes parents to raise your children. And now a lot of people don't have a 2-parent home, but then get together with other single moms and pool your resources together there. One of you works from 7 to 3, and the other one works from 3 to 11. The other one's, swap and watch one another's kids. This is doable. But when they isolate us to the point of telling us you need to stay just with your nuclear family, then they're making themselves be the only answer. And that is what we need to push against. And
they're not the only answer. You have options. Even if there's a wait list. Let me throw up the website again. So all the options are linked on the website. So they look like little buttons. You just click on the buttons on the website. If something jumps out at you, and then I think I'll be having candidates. I have already reached out to school choice campaigns that support this issue. So the Forest campaign, for example, I have requested that they come on a live broadcast and dig in a little bit deeper into the Opportunity Scholarship Program, because Forest campaign has said, well, I would like to, Dan Forest himself has said, well, I would like to expand this program, period. Mm-hmm. But we have those 2 other programs that apparently nobody's going to touch. But to what extent is he going to expand it? So that's what I've heard from parents. They're like, what does he mean with this weighted system? Like, how can we find out more? And so we could find out more if he came online and just explained it. And then I think I got some comments from Mark Keith Robinson, who supports school choice, and he's running for lieutenant governor. So Dan Forest is challenging, our current governor, Mandy Cohen, right? Yeah. Just kidding.
The non-doctor Mandy Cohen.
Yeah, former her license.
So, but if you are a school choice proponent and you are watching and you're catching this after the live broadcast, feel free to reach out. I've put up the website. It's ncschoolchoice.com or northcarolinaschoolchoice.com. And we'll go ahead and wrap this up. And also, if you're watching, like Michele, you might want to do this in the future, maybe if you get a wild hair. I'm asking for parents like you or I to just submit videos about why your choice works well for you. So even if you chose the government-run school system, just a video short that we could, let people listen to that 30-second to 1-minute segment and say, this worked for me and I chose this because, in 1 minute or less, because it's hard to get people to watch a 45-minute broadcast. And I know that. Look, we can't even get Pam to watch.
I am. I'm on your page right now.
Oh,
nice. I'm doing 2 things at one time.
Multitasking hard.
Guys, I'm pretty sure, I need to look again, but I am pretty sure that this Saturday there is a forum it's a bunch of homeschool moms who actually are answering questions and things this Saturday on the 18th.
That's great.
And I can get that information and then you can put it up maybe and post this. Because we were trying to figure out, and even there's something called Homeschoolers for Dan Forest, and I don't know if you know Brenda Brown.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this, but Susan Sykes, who is E.C. Sykes' wife, she was big into was big into homeschooling and was at Lighthouse.
Yes, she helped found Lighthouse.
Yeah. And so they have a lot of people that have done a lot of different things in schooling. And we were talking about coming up with a mentoring program, just if people wanted to ask questions, just having 50 different people that you could call and say, okay, kind of, this is what we've done. So I'm kind of versed in this, or I have these kids with these special needs or whatever. And if you want to talk to somebody that's been down that road here, let's connect you and kind of have that.
Yeah, I've been doing that for a year.
I know you have been. So,
I've been people connecting too. So if someone reached out, so oftentimes if someone reaches out, they're going to do it in a private message. And they're like, I'm thinking about leaving. I'm leaving my government school because this, do you know if anyone can answer questions about high school for me? And I'll put them in direct contact with someone who knows how to do homeschool in high school, because you've got to produce that transcript. But you brought up a good point, Lighthouse Homeschool Association. That is something that I recommend to anybody, whether they want to pay the $75 a year or not. They have those social activities, which you can opt out of, but they also have other things like they'll put together an annual yearbook. If your family wanted to be in that yearbook, you pay for that fee or whatever, but what is free for your dues in exchange for your one-time dues, you're put in contact with other folks just like you, and they'll put up a speaker in a monthly meeting. And so they'll talk about themed issues, and they probably do the same thing for teachers and professional development and things like that. So, they try to mirror what we have in the other schools, that you have those same tools laid out before you. So don't be afraid, but it is very helpful to have someone to lean on. Once I realized I had so many homeschoolers in my neighborhood, that helped me take the plunge. But I didn't just run into it blind. I was like, oh, we got lights 3 times, in 1 month. This is crazy. I'm out of here, or, oh, she got hit in the face and they didn't even tell me about it. I wasn't impulsive, even though I wanted to leave quickly. You got to think it through and figure out what's going to work best.
But I will say the government is getting to the point that they really are not giving people a choice. Because staying home, even though it's not typical homeschool, it is up to the parents to be sure that learning is happening. And essentially that's what homeschooling is of older students, is you are the one that is watching and guiding them and directing them and pulling them back onto the path. And that's what every parent of a middle schooler and a homeschooler is going to be, should they go to C, or should they go to B, where you're only in school 1 week out of 3. Either way, at this point, the parents are going to have to pick up the baton.
Sure. And it doesn't have to be, Pam, it doesn't have to be homeschooling for you. If you could get one of those K through 12 grants, you might be able to get into a private school, tuition paid with tax dollars. So, you know, there's some great programs out there. We just need to.
Here we are. How many weeks till school starts? It's sort of hard to start.
We need to avoid the bad media too. Like I named earlier in the live streams I did, random walking around videos. We need to avoid NC Policy Watch, Public Schools First of North Carolina, Caffeinated Rage. We're just to name a few. The NCAE, the Wake Association of Educators. That's all going to be biased information that is going to want to keep people funneling into the government schools, keep children funneling in, keep your tax dollars funneling in, asking for more. I mean, it's just a common theme. It just keeps going and going. I'm sorry, I'm depressing Michele.
I'm just like,
you know anything about the charter schools? Like you were over by Wake Forest Charter School today. I saw
charter school. Yeah. So if you want me to do a quick run,
like an Endeavor Charter School, what are they going to do? I mean, do we have any information about them?
So if you want me to do a quick rundown of what your options are in North Carolina,
they don't fall under the state schools, right?
State schools. The state categorizes education in two categories: public and non-public. So in the public column, you have your school, like Heritage High School, which is a public high school. Right. It's you go to it based on your zip code. That's how it's your base school, right? And then you have tuition-free charter schools. So if you know it's a charter school and you live in the state of North Carolina, you know they're not going to charge you tuition. Right. But you also need to be aware that starting a charter school is a very long process in the state of North Carolina. And you need to go back and watch my other broadcasts where I address this when you have time.
But I think in answer, I think the charter schools are going to be under the same public school control.
Well, so if we dig into Plan B a little bit deeper, I need to isolate what his recommendations are from what the requirements are. So when I pulled up, maybe her internet was bad. Well, maybe she'll tune in later. Has she faded out to you too, Michele?
Yeah, she has.
Okay. So maybe we lost Pam, and that's okay. I'll put her in the waiting room for a second. And it looks like she's trying to dial back in. Oh, well. Oh, there she is. Hold on.
Oh, but what I was going to ask you is, what rules do they follow? What rules does a charter school follow? Like when
they have a bit more flexibility. So we need to figure out what's required and what's recommended. And then we can move forward from there. So I'll dig into the Plan B a little bit deeper today once we get off this broadcast. Okay. And I'll share what I can on the website, the school choice groups. How's that?
That's good.
Good.
So Michele, it's funny that you brought up the possibilities about, contacting retired school teachers and people and homeschool moms, because last night on the Wake Forest page, Angela, I don't know if you saw this or not, but there was a mom said, I'm looking for a retired school teacher to teach my first grader. And
I bet they would.
She said 3 days a week. She said, I just want somebody 3 days a week. So
and I would encourage her. She can also go to homeschool graduates. Go to somebody that's graduated high school and do it like a nanny. You know what I'm saying?
Been through it. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. I mean, I'm sorry, but anybody that's been through first grade and succeeded can teach somebody how to do first grade stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And K through 5 is a lot easier to teach, I think, until you get to that middle school. That math is like, oh my gosh.
Math.
Tell me now.
That's why I have him. So that's why I said he will be the one homeschooling, not me.
There you go.
But it's okay. Like, even if you come across a subject that you cannot teach, you can buy materials where you're popping in a DVD. And, you know, like Izzy, I'm not going to have her surf the internet. She's 13 years old. I've caught her on TikTok or whatever it's called,
TikTok by the Chinese, by the way.
Oh no. Well, so we have DVDs for that type of personality, someone who wants to wander off and go do their own thing. We're like, no,
which is pretty much everyone in the world. So
they want to wander off. Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of wandering off, I'll let you ladies wander off. Thank you so much for joining me. And hopefully we help some people. And if you feel like we have, please tag some friends in the video. And I'll download it to the YouTube channel so everybody can share it. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.